got to say, George, little did I know, back in 1987, when I arrived up at Ridge Street in North Sydney for a temp job, a 6-week temp job, that I was going to be here all those years later, saying some words in retirement.
Oh, Linda.
Well, here I am, like, things have flown.
You know that reminds me of. You met my mum, didn't you, at the time?
I did.
I think she interviewed you, and I after she interviewed you, I said, what does that girl know about insurance? She said, oh, no, George, she's Irish, she's in. Do you remember that?
Well, she didn't, George, because your memory is definitely gone.
That's got Boise. It's got his Boise, and I don't even know.
I had a temp job, and I arrived up to Ridge Street on 7th floor, and I was there 10 to 9, punctual, no one there.
Oh, that was in the good old days.
No one there. And George's brother Kieran arrived, and went, oh, you're Irish. Oh, you get on well here. He goes, yeah, my brother is, one of the owners, and, he's Irish, my mum works here, and we've got Tom Roach here on the life side, and he's from Galway.
We had a lovely Irish connection, didn't we?
So we did, George. But I have to say, that was my introduction to insurance. Back in the good old days.
It was,
I
yeah.
arrived in. They all disappeared for lunch at about 11:30.
Shh, don't tell them this.
And I was like, where's everybody gone? And you get the phone calls, I need to cover note on my motor vehicle. Me? I'm a backpacker. Nothing about insurance.
Well, you're good at doing cover notes on motor vehicles.
Yeah, because we had someone across the road who helped out.
Yeah.
I had to say, but after a little while, it did dawn on me that nickname of Sir Lunchalot. I was like, wow, okay, that is George. He does like a long lunch.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I think everybody in the insurance industry did these things.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that.
And they probably do still today. We did have that Irish connection, and you did mention your mum.
Yeah.
So the big coincidence was George's mum, Kitty, worked at Sterling Insurance as well, and she happened to live back in Ireland. She lived in the same area as Dublin that I had lived for about 6 months before I came out. Yeah, it has been. It's been great. George then he took me under his wing and threw me in at the deep end.
Well, that's how you
What
know,
about insurance?
yeah.
Like, oh, I don't know anything about insurance. Yeah, no, you can do it. Just and that's where my career in insurance started. So it was under George's wing that he encouraged me, empowered me, and brought me to where I am in my career today.
And we don't have long lunches anymore, I taught you
I
that
wish
as
we
well.
did. I wish we did. Well, we probably might, but
Yeah.
excluding the alcohol.
Definitely.
That'd be just all the yarns and But George, it's been great.
Thanks, Linda.
You've been positive, your energy has been really good. You could be too positive sometimes. I do remember a time sitting in that office in Heath, and all I wanted to do was cry and be negative, and you come out with, it's a challenge. And I'm like, no, George, give me my 5 minutes where I can cry and be negative. But you didn't want that. So it's been a journey, it's been a blast. And I'm going to finish up with an Irish blessing. May you always find roads to travel, new horizons to explore, and dreams to call your own. We all love you.
Yeah, thanks, Linda.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
On behalf of Sterling, of us all, it's just a little present for every time you look at it. Please remember us all.
I will. Look, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Oh, you got to open it, mate.
Of course I will.
Chocolates again.
Oh, thanks much.
Go on, eat.
Down? Yeah, it's upside down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, dear me.
What is it?
Hang on.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Now, that is very nice. You know, I do have one of these at home, but it's not a real one. So thank you. Thank you. And, oh, that's very nice. Now, that sort of might remind me of a bit of a story, which I'll just share with you quickly. And I remember when I first started in insurance in 1970, just around the corner from where our office is now, in 12 O'Connell Street, and no mobile phones, no computers, most things were manual. The Bank of New South Wales was on the corner. We worked out of a tariff book, which is a bit like the binder agreements now we have. And on a Friday afternoon, the underwriters for Manufacturers Mutual, who I worked for then, would wander down to the Grand, and we'd get phone calls from the brokers on Monday, reading off the back of their BF coasters where the underwriter signed off on a rate on something, and that's sort of how business was done in those days. And I can remember my first week in the office, all the girls wore this really horrible green uniform. It was a shocker. And everyone smoked. Everyone had an ashtray on their table. The room was full of smoke. And you know, we used to do things and everything was manual. The office up in Tamworth had to mail down all the payments, and I'd have to manually put them in a book. That's how the system was done. Someone had a householder's policy and they put a new diamond ring on, they'd write a letter to you. You'd get the letter and you'd put it into your endorsement file tray, and you'd get to it eventually, and then you'd add it on, calculate out the bill, and send a letter out to the person, send her the cheque. But this watch reminded me of that because I actually worked with a fella in Manufacturers Mutual, a fella called John Parrington, which was Tony's dad. And I can remember most of the people I worked with, they were all there 15, 20 years, but they all were hanging out for one thing. After 25 years, the company gave them a watch. And so that just reminded me of that. They wanted to stay an extra 3 years just to get the Manufacturers Mutual watch.
Which was a quartz made in China.
Yeah.
About $200.
I know. So yeah, I walked down there today just to have a bit of a look. It's still there. It was a trust building, and then it's called Manufacturers House. Still there. And I was walking up the road and I saw this fancy restaurant called Bentley's. And I had a look at the menu and it's really expensive, you know. But I can remember that used to be the Bank of New South Wales. On the top floor, all the staff was staff canteen, and they got a free lunch. Well, it didn't take me too long to work out how to move from insurance into banking very quick. So I ended up on the top floor there many a lunchtime. And the trick was when you walked in there, is you got to know the bloke standing on the counter, standing on the door, you'd welcome him and say, look, I'm just started downstairs on the tell. What's your name? You know, Elliot. And every time I came in there, oh, good day, Elliot, how you going? And I'd have a free lunch. They've increased the prices eventually. You know, it's unbelievable. They've increased the prices now. But that's what it was. That's what the ANZ Bank was, where that car was, on the opposite corner. So just a bit of a history. And probably just to let you know a bit about Sterling Insurance. Thanks for bringing that up, Linda, because we started it in, I think the company started in 1981, and it was an older fellow I'd worked for, a fellow called John Cummins, and he wanted to retire, and I bought the business off him in about 1983, and look, in that business, I can remember my dad got retrenched out of the Sydney Morning Herald. He came and worked in the business, and when he passed away, I said to my mother, you know, Dad owns 10% of the company. She came in and worked in the company. My brother worked in the company, Kieran. Linda remembers Kieran. And Sandy, my cousin from Ireland, worked in the company. And it was very much a family, you know, it very much was a family. And we then sold out to Heath Fielding at the time, and we were there for quite a few years. I worked with Bushy, Kirsten, and Sabrina. Yes, and Sabrina. We were all part of a similar team, and in 2003, I think it was, 4 of us, and that was Tony, Linda, myself, and another girl.
Who cannot be named.
We will mention
She
her
should not be
name.
named.
She was our partner, Nadia, and
Grey hair therapy lunches.
but look, we were all good friends, and we decided we'd go and do something different than working for a multinational who were selling to Marsh. So we did. We set it up, and it's been just a great journey. I remember walking in the door. We didn't have any business. We had to build it from scratch, and it was fun. It was real fun. We all sat on the floor. No one had an office, and it was just like a stock market, I suppose. We won an account. We'd all celebrate. It was that interaction, and I think part of that journey was was that we got along really well together, but that was our working life, but it was part of a bigger picture, which was our family life, and that was a very important part to us as partners. We made sure that that was an integral part of our journey forward, and it wasn't necessarily about the bottom line.
Yeah, remember that, DK?
And look, I'm quite a risk taker, and I've been blessed to have Tony and Linda, who've pulled me back from the cliff a few times. Thankfully, thank you guys. And yeah, but look, it's been a very much a family company. I think people who work with us have stayed with us for a long periods of time, and now you're on your next part of your journey with this wonderful group, ATC, and it's just a bigger family. And I think they value their people as much as we valued our people. So, and I'm really glad that it's worked out this way for all of you. So, good luck for the future.
So he's always up for a free meal, all right?
I've really loved insurance. I really have. It's been. It wasn't my career of choice, but I've loved it. And even with James in London, these guys, you'd go over to London and they'd have the hire car at the airport. George, where we take you to Ascot or whatever. I mean, it was fantastic. Then we did a bit of business as well, didn't we, James? But look, even our London counterparts and the relationships we built over there have been really good. So thank you very much to all the people at Sterling for the journey, because I've thoroughly enjoyed it and I hope you continue to do so. Thank you.
Yay.